The subject of this video is the unauthorized use of personal information to steal and what I have done to limit my exposure and risk from such thefts. It is apparent to most people by now that criminals have several pieces of their personal information that may include your full name, social security number, one or more credit card numbers, your address, email information, and even the name of your bank and checking account number. I have a credit monitoring service that will notify me when there are changes in my address or other personal information. Many years ago, I received notice from that credit monitoring service that my address had changed from where I have lived since 1982 in Tennessee and where I live now to a vacant lot in Eau Claire, Wisconsin that looked like a slum after I Googled the address. When I tried to access my credit card account, I was denied access. I called the fraud line and was told that someone had gained access to my account, changed my password and address to that Eau Claire address for a vacant lot, and had ordered online about $500 in merchandise from Walmart. As it turned out, they had already picked up the merchandise within 1 day after hacking my account. It was that quick. I would think that the Walmart employee would at least ask to see some identification for an order that was made online and picked up at the store, assuming they were not part of the theft ring. But criminals have fake IDs that they have with their pictures on them, so that would not have stopped the theft. The criminal the criminal changed my address on the first day of the 30-day billing cycle, which was not accidental. Their hope was to max out the credit card limit before I would receive my next statement and realize that someone was fraudulently using my credit card without actually having the credit card, which was still in my billfold. At that time, I had a $30,000 credit limit, which I never had asked for, and I reduced that to $2,000 in response. If I need more, I will use a debit card that has a separate bank account from my regular checking account, and I can quickly add to the balance by transferring from a main checking. I keep that amount in the debit card linked account relatively small in case that account is somehow successfully targeted by a criminal down the road. I can also uh, uh, send transfer money to my credit card account, which will take me into a credit situation if I need to increase the credit limit. I found that it was fairly easy to change the account information on my credit card by simply having my name, credit card number, the last four digits of my social security number, and the three-letter PIN number on the back. And I had to ask myself who had that information. It could have been a hack, but I suspect that the most likely source worked at a hospital where I had just had a CAT scan, and the billing clerk had asked me how I would pay for the deductible. I pulled out my credit card and found it odd that she looked on the back where the three-letter PIN number could be found. There was no reason for her to look. About 2 or 3 weeks later, the event that I described earlier occurred. A similar theft occurred last year that most likely came from someone working in healthcare as well. I received notice from Medicare that they had denied a $2,050 claim by a medical equipment company that I never heard of, located in Grand Prairie, Texas, who claimed that I had received a 200 intermittent urinary catheter There was no truth in that claim. I had not even been in Texas in over 40 years, and I have no need for a catheter. The alleged company that submitted this bill had my full name, address, and Medicare number. Only 3 organizations had my Medicare number. One was Kroger, who uses it to bill Medicare for vaccines that I receive from them. My doctor that I see once a year to receive an annual prescription refill for 2 medicines that I take, and Quest Diagnostics, where I have had a few blood tests. I notified Medicare's fraud prevention person, asked for and received a new Medicare card, of course, and was told by the agent that she had been fielding all day calls about this company who had apparently been billing people nationwide for the same product. Another fraud protection technique that I use is simply to silence all phone calls on my iPhone from numbers that are not in my iPhone contact address book. Just go to settings, scroll to phone, and turn on silence calls from unknown numbers. Besides eliminating calls from those who are attempting to get me to part with my money, it usually, I think, happens about once a day, although I don't take the calls. I eliminate all junk calls as well. I'm simply notified by my Apple iPhone that a call has been silenced. If the number is not in my contact uh, list, they can leave a voicemail as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes when I have a technician coming, they will call from their cell phone rather than the number in my contact list for the business, so I turn off the silence unknown callers for that day. There are several videos on YouTube that I've watched recently where the criminal was able to spoof a bank's fraud line number, and the criminal convinces the customer that someone was draining their account, which was not happening, and then convince them to give some information that allowed the criminal to enter the account and then drain it. Never give information that would allow a criminal to breach a security barrier. This kind of scam has not happened to me if the call was not silent since the bank number was being spoofed and was in my phone book uh, uh, contact list. I would not give them any information, but would simply hang up and then go online to see whether there had been any unauthorized activity. The odds that nothing has happened are almost 100%, if not 100%. And if the off chance there was unauthorized transfers, I would call the financial institution directly. Another line of videos on YouTube involves what is called a SIM card swap. The criminal goes to a phone store with a fake ID with their photo and the customer's name and convinces the company to give a new SIM card with the same phone number. I am not sure exactly how this scam works, but apparently the criminal then enters a new password and gains access to stored passwords for banks or brokers under that phone number that the customer has, then moves the funds to a different account. Two-factor authentication does not stop the scam since the 6-digit code that is sent by the financial institution is sent to the criminal's phone, with a new SIM card. You can tell something is wrong when you notice that your phone has quit working, but that is probably too late. There are several ways that people have suggested to avoid this kind of problem. One is to have a PIN with your carrier. I found out that I could not do anything like secure a new phone without giving my carrier the PIN number that I had with them. Another way is to lock down the SIM card, which it can be done by entering on the phone the long identification number for the existing SIM card. Lastly, I do not store any passwords for financial institutions on my iPhone. Another protection is to lock down your credit reports if you do not have to borrow money. I do not have any debt, so I've locked down my report. Setting up alerts about credit usage with your credit card company is another way to be notified about unauthorized usage.